Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the life of Jamie and more. And this is episode 8. My God, I can't even believe I've actually done 8 episodes. It's pretty good, actually. I'm rather impressed with myself. Anyway, moving on from slapping myself on the back and giving me high fives, I will move straight into a very special guest tonight. And I met up with this guest actually late last year, and his name is Doug. Doug, actually, can I call you Doug or Douglas? Actually, I should have asked you this. Which do you prefer, Doug? Douglas?
Douglas. Yeah, I prefer Douglas.
Douglas.
Friends and
Right
family back home call me Eric, but
okay.
And yeah, I prefer Douglas.
Douglas. All right. Fantastic. So, Douglas, welcome to the podcast, and and thank you for making the time to come on and share your story.
Sure.
And we have actually been trying to do this probably about for the last 6 days, haven't we?
Yeah, family issues come up, and got to post things every once in a while.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's well, here we are. So, Douglas, I kind of want you to give us a bit of an intro to you and why you are a guest on the podcast here.
Well, I have a son named Micah. He's 13 years old. When he was born, he actually aspirated the meconium fluid, I believe it's called, and it scalded his lungs. He also had the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck. So they had to do an emergency C-section.
Right.
But before they could actually get him out, he had already aspirated. So the first time that it's supposed to be the happiest day of your life, seeing your child born. So it was a mixed emotions. At that time, I really couldn't speak Japanese that well, and I had no idea what was going on. The doctors are rolling Micah in front of me, and they're sitting there bagging him, and they're basically said, "Here's your son, and we have to go off to ICU."
Wow.
Yeah,
that is one hell of an introduction to parenthood right there.
Yeah, so I was just so ecstatic to be a father.
Yeah.
And to have a son right off the bat, I was just really excited about that. But just to be thrown into this, from being extremely happy to, not knowing what was going on, and I couldn't speak to my wife. She's still in surgery and so forth. So yeah, it was really rough. But so he was in ICU.
Sorry, I was actually just going to ask you, because thinking back, how did you kind of deal with that? Did you just did you freak out, or did you just be like, okay, well, you didn't kind of realize how you were really feeling and how you were mentally processing all that?
I was just trying to hope for the best, not really understanding things, and just hoping for the best. Maybe he was. I knew that they were having some problems going in, and they had to do the C-section. So I thought it was just kind of just getting oxygen to his body, and he would be okay. I didn't know at the time he had aspirated, but the longer things went on, I slowly found out that he was going to be in ICU, and he ended up being in ICU for 2 months.
Wow.
So, and there were several times he almost died. He was hooked up to 13 different medications at one time. His entire body swelled up. He was bright red. He had septicemia, and he was just swollen. And we thought we were gonna lose him.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, we had a very good doctor that she stayed up several times, where she was just bagging him, where
Wow.
he wasn't breathing on his own. So she stayed up with him on one occasion, especially for 10 hours straight. She was bagging him all night long.
Wow.
So
Jeez, man.
she saved his life. So
You gotta, yeah, man. I can, like, actually, things you said there takes me back to actually episodes with Jamie when he was like first in the hospital, also when he kind of went back into hospital, and like multiple times, and just like having like all these IVs in him, right? I remember that, like, and just feeling just ridiculously helpless, just like feeling like I fucking can't do anything. Like I'm just like, I feel like just a body. That's all I just felt like. I just felt like a body that was just not able to really process what was going on. Like I guess you were probably in a similar situation, right?
yeah, just not able to speak to the doctors. The doctors really couldn't speak English with me. I had to rely on my wife to let me know what was going on. And
I think actually that's actually an interesting point, because we both live in Japan, right?
Yeah.
And my Japanese is just horrific, and it was like way back 14 odd years ago, it was even more horrific than what it is now. But the challenge that both you and I had was that our wives were the translators for us. So we couldn't just roll over to the doctor and say, hey, can you just tell us what's going on here? Like, there was none of that. Like, we were like in the dark, and that's just how it was, right? That was just we could try and find someone who spoke a bit of English, try and get some information from the doctors or whatever, right?
Yeah.
But it was generally you would have been relying on your wife, and I was relying on my wife, and that is just thinking back, man. It's just like, that's so hard, and we just you just battle through it. You don't realize it's another layer of stress on you, another layer of kind of anxiety. Here you are in a hospital, and
to make things worse, I was in between jobs. So
wow.
I came over here on the JET program, and I was teaching English for 3 years, and my contract ended. I tried to go off to Tokyo, but that didn't work out, so I came back. So I was in between jobs. So luckily, I had the support of my family, and especially my father. He helped us out financially, so we were able to stay at a hospital hotel. So my father paid for that.
Right.
So luckily, we had the support with that, and we were able to go visit Micah every day in ICU. We had prayer cards from back home, and we would go and talk to him and rub his body and really try to stimulate his body to get him to try to back. He ended up getting some pressure sores. There's a scar on the back of his head, and he had a couple more on his body, where he was just laying in one position for literally 2 months. So, but after roughly a month, we started realizing that he was probably going to make it. And the doctors started reassuring us that it looked like all the things that they were doing, he was going to probably make it. They actually had to ship in, I think it was nitrous oxide. They they had to get all of the as much oxygen to all of the tissue as much as possible. So they actually had to ship in these tanks of, I think it was nitrous oxide from Osaka. They didn't have that
Wow.
on here in Kochi. So
God.
yeah, originally we were thinking we were going to have to, take a flight, helicopter flight over to Osaka and stay there. But
Wow.
we were actually able to ship in these tanks and treat them here in Kochi. So
God.
for the longest
That's
time,
there we go.
it was rough. It was really rough.
How did you like? I want to jump to a question here because if you think back to that point, what advice would you give yourself as a dad, like right at that point? Because that's kind of there are guys out there who are going through or have just gone through these kind of episodes, right?
Yeah.
So if you could give any advice to yourself that you would like, if you could give yourself that advice back to when it all happened 13 years ago, what would that be?
What I think, whatever help is presented to you, don't be afraid to accept it.
Mm.
If and for me, it was hard to ask my father to assist us financially, but I was in
Mm.
no position whatsoever to to do all that. So
Mm.
it was hard for me to do that, but I had no choice. So I think just don't be afraid to ask for help. And if help presents itself, don't be afraid to accept it. Do
Mm.
whatever you can to, take away the stress of the situation, and, so that you can think clearly and, uh,
Yeah.
hope for the best.
Well, you're literally going day by day, aren't you? When you, at
Yeah,
that time,
it was,
you're going like hour by hour, day by day,
yeah,
and you know you you're living in a hospital.
yeah.
You're living in the hospital, and that's literally your life, isn't it? And that was my life as well.
And
Um,
our contact time was very limited. We were not allowed to stay very long within the actual room. There were other babies that were in critical condition also.
mm.
So the nurses were very busy, the doctors were very busy. So our actual contact time was very limited. So we would go back to our room and just we'd have to find ways to encourage each other to be positive, and had to try to take our mind off of things. So we were, trying to watch movies and read
Mm.
books or whichever to try to take our mind off of things also.
Mm.
So
And this because 13 years ago, this is kind of also well, not pre Google, but it's like it was obviously from a social media perspective, like there was not a lot of it around, so certainly wasn't the very elementary stages of trying to reach out and find anyone that was going through anything like that, right?
mm,
Was just almost a shot in the dark, and it wasn't going to happen for me anyway.
yeah,
I think for me, I just went into my big kind of bubble. Well, not even a big bubble, my small bubble, because we still don't have any family here in Osaka. It's just us. It's just me and Junko. So we were just just doing what we could do, and while we had all support from outside, people were giving us all these good vibes and everything like that. Um, it was still really fucking hard,
yeah,
and like it's kind of there's pretty much like not a lot we could do about it. It was just unfortunately we just had to roll with it, and like you just got to roll with those situations and try and not fall off the wagon and not fall down the hole and just start to feel like the world is out to get you. I want to, like, Douglas, for you, when kind of acceptance of everything in your life with Micah and his condition, right? When has that kicked in? When did it kick in for you?
Well, whenever he got out of the hospital, we went back for checkups and so forth. He had to check his lungs on a few occasions. It took his lungs to recuperate. Took that a long time. We were told by the doctor over many, many months that because of his sedation and the trauma that he went through, he was most likely going to be behind. So for us, as he got, became 1, 2, 3, he was going through preschool. When the teachers told us, he's a little bit behind on this and a little bit behind on that, we just thought, the doctor originally told us that would happen. We didn't think that there was anything else wrong. And other people that had contact with Micah, they all thought he was pretty much a normal kid. But he was behind on speaking and walking and potty training and things like that. So it wasn't until basically the end of preschool that the teachers were saying, look, the other kids are here and Micah is here as far as like writing ability, speaking and playing. There's certain levels where the kids should reach. And so they started talking about that. And that's when the first thing of autism came up. So he's been diagnosed with the autism spectrum disorder and with an intellectual disorder. So as far as when have we accepted that? Well, of course we accepted that then. But as far as accepting, I guess, what we've had to go through with, the educational system here, I really can't accept that. We've had to fight for years, the educational system here. We just can't accept it. Even he's been tested a few times and how they tested him. For one thing, his IQ, I really don't agree with it. I don't. He can't speak. He can't. Express his emotions. So I don't understand how you can give an IQ test to a child who can't express themselves.
Yeah, that is pretty much like it becomes pointless, doesn't it? Because it's not like it becomes irrelevant. It's
not to mention the fella that gave the IQ test was not a specialist. He was, by what my wife has told me, he's just a teacher that's, I guess, did some side training of sorts, and he's now the head of the Board of Education in that department. So this guy was giving our son this IQ test. In the home, he's hearing both English and Japanese. So he may understand certain things better in English and certain things better in Japanese. So for even that, how can you give an accurate test to a child where, they may understand one thing in English better? So you can't, in my eye, you can't really rank their IQ in that way. So
this was an IQ test they did at the school.
It was basically at the Board of Education. They had a special floor where we met with this supposedly a specialist, and we talked about Micah, his future, what we should do for his future education. Should we send him basically to a special needs school? Or my wife and I didn't want that. We wanted him to, you know, to join a regular school and try to get as much, I guess, normal education as possible.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So this was when obviously this is as he entered into elementary school, right?
Yeah.
This was just before that. So
now
so
during his during his preschool, we did find out he was kind of going towards autism. So we started going to it's basically used in America where kids with autism they can learn special skills. They meet with a special needs teacher and they can work on their skills, memory, and kind of developing skills. But in America, you can go to those classes daily. There's and you can have that training daily. But for us, it was basically once a week for an hour. So he was doing very well with it, and he was, quickly moving through the program. But it wasn't, in our eye, it just wasn't enough. And if they had continued something like that into elementary school, we wonder where he would be now. Would he be behind in education as he is now? Or, it's really unfortunate that it's almost like they're giving the parents hope that their kids will get the proper help, but it's not enough help. And then once they get to elementary school, they snatch it away from you. And then they put the child in an environment that they're not used to. And where for example, if they're studying, they should have kind of these blinds where they're studying in a quiet area and they can focus. But they took all of that away when he went to elementary school. And we never could understand that. Why stop that style if it helps them? And we were trying school to do that, but they weren't set up for it. We just never.
So they were. So when you said, can we do these have these blinds set up in the classroom for him to kind of operate, and work, be better for himself. He's able to kind of concentrate and is that. And they were just like, they were not interested, or they just were like stonewalled you on it?
Kind of, in a way, stonewall, yeah. Now, we decided to go to a small school. So even now, Micah's school has very few students. And we thought that would be the best thing for him. 50 total students in the school, for example. But his first elementary school, he had a great help teacher, but unfortunately she's trying to juggle other kids at the time. So she couldn't really focus 100% on Micah like we were hoping for. But she was a good teacher. She did a good job. So, but unfortunately, when we moved, we got a horrible teacher. So it's been, up and down with finding good teachers and getting the right support. So that's I can absolutely I'm on board with you with that, because it's teachers getting someone who is willing to try, is willing to actually give it a go and be like, well, let's have a go. Like, I don't know whether we can or not, but let's try. And it's a continuous you're continuously educating them, like continuously telling them what it is that, how to kind of be inclusive. And unfortunately because we live in Japan, and because Japan, unfortunately, I kind of see it's about probably 20 to 30 years behind in kind of inclusion, in a way. It's got a long way to go, and it's just,
I feel that we're kind of paving the way, man. That's essentially what we're doing. Is we're trying to pave the way, and it's as frustrating as it is for you and I, because it's it's frustrating. It makes my blood boil sometimes.
I don't think Japan realizes how far behind they are. I really don't. I think they think they're doing everything that they possibly can, and everything's fine. I don't even.
I think you're right. Actually, I think they do. I think they kind of feel like we're actually making an effort here, and it's not until you actually bring something to the table and say, hey, and then sometimes, but again, because you live really rural, you're in a very kind of rural part of Japan, and I'm obviously in a big city here, Osaka. So it's like those things also play really different parts to how education goes here. And it must be, and I can fully empathize how hard it must be for you down there, because it's that rural, small town mentality of, that's too hard. We don't have the budget, all those kind of things. So and it's frustrating, because you're like, well, come on, man, just all I want is equality and just humanity, and let's just can't we do this? And they're like, no. So man, it's a it is a for never ending battle. And I think that that's what the episode of inclusion was. It's just it just keeps on going, and every year we go, we start school, it's a new teacher, or new classmates, and again I feel like we're just kind of educating again and again and again and again, and it's tiring. And they always say, oh, he's tired, or we had to take him out of the classroom for timeout, and it's like, okay, but what does that mean? They keep using the phrase. It's like this phrase saying to cool down. That's right. They want him to cool down. I was like, what are they? What's going on? I do know sometimes Jimmy can get a bit kind of excited, but I don't think he gets too crazy in his class, because I just don't see him doing that in his class. So maybe that's just me being totally oblivious to how it is. But so you I have a question for you, because I've had a bit of I've realized something in the past kind of week, about a week actually, and this was a lot to do with actually the conversations we had together, and it was about how I had decided that I was going to essentially give my own diagnosis that Jamie was on the spectrum of autism, because I started to kind of investigate it, right? I started to actually investigate how he was, because things were just not making sense, to me. They were just it didn't fit into the category of just what Down syndrome was. And then, talking to you, and then I jumped. So you kind of started the ball rolling for me, actually. So I started to get onto YouTube and have a look more about kind of how, and what is autism, and there's so many spectrums of it, right? And it's this big thing. And so I realized, that it's just, I've had a bit of a eureka moment, probably. I'm 14 years in, and I've had a bit of a moment where I'm I'm starting to understand Jamie a little bit more, and understanding kind of how he might be in his class as well, But I want to thank you actually for that, because I think, we had a conversation the other week, 2 weeks ago, and I started to kind of think I wonder what Jamie might have something else, because it just didn't seem to kind of match. So, because he makes a lot of noises. I don't know, does Micah, does he kind of make random noises.
Yes.
Yeah.
He will make. I think it's called parroting. I think it's called. He'll make certain sounds if he's nervous or excited.
Mm.
He'll repeat things many, many times.
Mm.
Especially if he's looking forward to something, he'll repeat it over and over again.
Right.
He fidgets. One of his favorite things to have with him is his cards. He has a stack of cards. They're on the table over there. He has a stack of cards, and he'll just keep thumbing through them, and it helps calm him down.
Right.
But yeah, there's certain things that he does that are very typical of autistic kids. So yeah, if your son is doing something like that, it is possible that he's on the spectrum. The autism started out kind of in a narrow field. It started out narrow with its the types, and it's broadened over the years. So for the longest time, we could never get really pinpoint Micah's type of autism. And so basically, we're just talking. He's on the spectrum, and he has, intellectual disorder. He's not on any medicine. And
did they ever offer you any?
Well, we were thinking about it. We thought it might help him with his study time, to help him concentrate. But part of us, I really worry about him being on medicine. He's still developing, and we want him to fully develop first, or develop a little bit more before doing any types of medicine. We just don't know if it would be helpful or not. We were never offered by the doctor to put him on medicine. We inquired, so we asked a few times, is there something that he could take that would help him? And they really we didn't really get things moving on it, really. So yeah, we were never really sure of what to do with that.
Did you ever thinking, like, have you ever kind of blamed yourself for how it's played out and how things have happened?
Yeah. My wife, she was blaming herself for a while. My wife has bipolar, and she was taking medicine. They had to, when she got pregnant, they had to kind of switch her medicine around, and so she was thinking that Micah's autism was caused by the medicine. But she also had, I think she was pre-diabetic while pregnant. Of course, he had the trauma whenever he was born. He had the umbilical cord wrapped around his neck, and aspirated. Yeah. He was on all of these medications in ICU. Scientists don't know what causes autism.
Yeah.
Now, one other thing. Before he was born, the doctor came back in and asked us. So I'm a big guy. I'm 6'1", 185 centimeters, and 100 kilograms. So I'm a big guy. That's about 225 pounds roughly. So I'm a big fella. My wife's very petite. So the doctor, before he was born, asked us. We were thinking maybe we should measure one more time to make sure he can, go through the birth canal easily. But the doctor said, we don't need to do that. I think everything's going to be okay. And I almost spoke and said, no, let's do it one more time. But I kept my mouth shut. And I wish I had spoken up. Otherwise, we would have measured, and we would have seen that he wouldn't have fit through the birth canal. And so partly I blame myself for that. But again, as far as the autism, scientists don't know what causes autism. You'll hear people say it's caused by vaccines. I think that's a bunch of bullshit, and it makes me angry when I hear people say that their kids' autism was caused by vaccine. That's absolute horseshit. Until until scientists come forward and say that for a fact, I'm not going to listen to any of this crap from some celebrity or something like that.
Yeah.
It makes me angry. It really does.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's amazing, isn't it? How here we are in 2022, and like they still don't know really. That they just don't know.
What I think, I think there is a gene that is triggered, whether there's some type of trauma, whether it's in the womb or after. There's some type of trauma that there's perhaps some hormones that are released, and that those stress hormones, might trigger that gene to switch on or switch off. That may cause the autism. That's what I think. So I don't know. It's just I'm not worried about it. There's nothing we can do. We don't know, maybe there was some environmental toxins that we were exposed to beforehand. It could be anything.
Could be anything, right?
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And so,
right.
Yeah. And so it's just now kind of rolling with it. Did you ever feel that have you ever felt that you don't have the right tools as a dad, like to kind of, to deal with Micah, to deal with him? Have you ever felt you're just like, I just really don't know what to do?
Yeah, all the time. We still don't know what direction to take him in as far as his future. That's really hard. And in Japan, as you know, the required education is just junior high school. And we're really trying to think about what we're going to do with him, for his high school. Right now, his education level is about second grade. His junior high school teachers, they don't know what to do with him. We've begged them to please come up with something to try to, like a science class or something like that. They're supposed to be professionals, and they can't come up with a method of how to teach Micah. Micah's a very visual type person, and we keep trying to tell the teachers that, but they just don't get it.
Do you think? I wonder. Do you think it's because they haven't been exposed to people like Micah? Because typically Japan here for many years is that special needs schools were the ones where kids got pushed onto. So basically, what would happen is that they would get to elementary school, and then they would be directed off really into special needs schools, and the special needs schools would deal with them for the rest of the day. Once you're in special needs schools, trying to get back into mainstream, that's really hard and really tough apparently, and they don't want that to happen. That's a whole nother story. Right. So, but basically, I wonder whether, for the way I kind of think is that maybe these mainstream schools is that they're not really educated. They're not taught that, like, this is what autism is, this is what Down syndrome is, and it's really fucking hard for these teachers teaching here. They're teaching like 40 odd kids in a class, right? 48 kids in a class here, up here in Osaka anyway, right? So, but it's like if they're given like a little bit of, bit more skills, if they're taught, and it takes time, right? It takes time to kind of educate these teachers as to how it is. And sometimes teachers are really on board with this, and sometimes they they've almost like got their blinkers on. They don't know, and they just and so it's hard, isn't it? It's very, very tough. So you kind of, you what you're saying is that you feel that you're I don't want to put what do they say, put words in your mouth, but what you're saying is that you're wanting to give him the best possible education to set him up as a dad. You're like this is what it's really important to you, and you're wanting, and it's important for him to be set up in the right way to kind of be able to kind of go through life the best he can, right?
We, as parents, we always want the best things for our kids, and we have the rights. Even though we have children with disabilities, we have the right as parents. They have the right as kids to get an education. And
yeah,
I really do feel like that's been taken away from us. We had the teacher that was hired a few years back. In Japan, if you don't pass your teacher license, you're basically in this kind of limbo 1-year contract type thing, where they'll shift you from school to school and until you pass your exam. But you can work as a teacher, but it's just on a yearly contract type thing, is my understanding of it.
Right.
This guy had just graduated. He was a music teacher, and he was hired as Micah's special needs teacher. And his background was not, there was no educational background for working with kids with disabilities. His sister had disabilities. That's why they hired him as Micah's teacher. He had no idea of what to do for Micah. And we had to actually go to school and tell him what to do. And it was just, I was just, oh my God. We were telling the Board of Education, if you do this again, we are going to sue you if you do this again to us. So the next year, of course, they sent a proper teacher.
Yeah.
His teacher now.
That's crazy, hey?
Great teacher now, but good Lord, I just don't understand the Board of Education sometimes and decisions. It's mind-boggling.
I think they live in a very different world. The Board of Education live in a very different world, a very different headspace compared to like what teachers on the ground are. That's my kind of experience here. Is that like it's the Board of Education of they're on a whole different planet. It's
I think that's everything.
I think. What was like? What has how has Micah changed you as a dad, right? How has Micah changed you?
If you ask anybody that knows me, I'm a guy that has zero patience, zero. And over the years, Micah's really, I'm still learning, but I'm really, becoming more and more patient with things. And Micah is really, he's just a pure kid. Just everything about him, he's very positive, and he's most of the time very, very happy and smiling. And so that his character really, it makes me look at myself. What character do I have? So I've really sat back over the years and looked at myself, and probably been too hard on myself, but trying to make myself a better person. I feel like I'm not a good dad a lot of times, but I'm trying. Sometimes I just don't know what to do, especially here in Japan. Every time I try to go in one direction, I run into a wall, and I have to change directions, and try something else, and it's
Mm.
happened over and over again.
Mm.
So it's broken me down as a person over the
Mm.
years, just not knowing what to do anymore.
Mm.
Well, and a lot of times I don't know what to do. You know, Kazumi and Micah have a good relationship. My wife, Kazumi,
Mm.
they have a very good relationship, and I just don't know what to do anymore. Kazumi keeps trying to tell me, just keep trying, keep trying. But
Mm.
sometimes it's hard, just I've made many steps over the years, and majority of what I've tried just didn't work out. Whatever,
Mm.
you father son type things, and
It's yeah, because I think that's like typically is the father son kind of, that's a very, like, we always see that as a very special kind of bond, and it's different from the son and mother,
yeah,
and having kind of struggling to feel that there's like that, um I it must be really hard, man, because I'm I don't have right now, I don't have that experience, but I think that, like, knowing, like, empathizing and feeling that, not to kind of feel like, okay, does he want to kind of do these things with me, or like I'm trying to do stuff but he's just not interested at kind of doing it with me. I actually have had that experience with my youngest son, actually. I've had that experience with my youngest, and it really sucks. It really sucks because it's just, I want to do stuff with him. I want him to kind of relate to me and kind of connect with me. And my youngest is, Joshua. He doesn't have, like, then again, maybe he does, but he doesn't have any disability or anything like that, or special needs. But like there have been moments where I've just been like, he just, like, he's like mummy's boy. He's like, and I guess that's like Micah, right? She's like, he's like mummy's boy.
very much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that must be really hard for you, because Joshua is mummy's boy and Jamie is daddy's boy. So he's just all over me. He's like a, he's like a koala. He's just, he just loves me. And sometimes Junko kind of, gets a little bit like, oh, okay, like, so you're going to go over to dad then? Okay. Like, so I can understand, because I've been understanding how you feel with that, because Joshua did that to me for many years, actually. And you feel, as a dad, you feel like, wow, fucking hell, like, what am I doing, right? Like, am I doing something wrong here? Am I like, what am I like? And so and I started kind of questioning kind of myself, and as Joshua's dad, I started questioning myself. And yeah, and sometimes questioning ourselves has a good things and bad things come from that, right? But it, I can pretty much say that, you're a very vital part of his day and his life, man. Like, while he probably may not sometimes share that with you, I am pretty sure that, like, he absolutely loves being around you and doing things with you. I am so sure of that. Even though, like, even though, like, he gives you he might give you cold shoulders and be like, no, like, whatever. Like, I guarantee you he does.
Kazumi is able to, Micah likes to play certain games, like kind of these repetitive games, verbal games. Kazumi is very good about doing that. But he doesn't really do that with me. I can't really have a conversation with him. I try to ask him, like, how was your day, and what did you do, but he doesn't reply back to me.
Right.
And just the desire just to have a conversation with him know him and and teach him things. Whenever he was in ICU, I made some promises to him that I haven't been able to keep. I had all these things that I wanted to teach him, and I told him if he can survive this, that when he gets older, that I would teach him all these things, and I haven't done it. That kills me.
Yeah. So you feel like you've put it out there, and you're like, well, I'm struggling to do this because this is what I want to do, and that's what we want. It's what you want to do as a dad, right? You're like, yeah, it must be very, very hard, man. Like, it's just never ending. It's a never ending battle, mate, and we just have to try and navigate through. We have to find ways for us as dads to mentally, kind of accept these ways. I think like acceptance of that is always like such a vital part of it, isn't it? And there's all these levels of acceptance, but at the end of the day, the frustration of like, man, like just like
one thing I keep telling myself is that what we can't do together now, like we bought him a bicycle, skateboard, various things, and try to introduce that to him, and either lack of interest or he's not capable of doing it physically at that time. And I keep telling myself I'll circle back around to it, later on. Pile is getting bigger and bigger. I'm not giving up by any means, and there are still many things that I really want to do with him, and I want to teach him, and but I'll just have to circle back around, I guess.
Yeah, it's forever trying to, like navigating through it, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of giving myself, and I think giving yourself some space and some kind of like this is just how it is going to be, and gotta keep on trying. This is how it's going to be, but I'm just going to keep on trying because we're a dad, and that's what we want to try and do, right? Trying to fix this problem. So my next question here is, what is something that he thought, something that you thought he would not be able to do, but he can do now?
Well, his education, there hasn't been any like huge jumps with his education and so forth. Everything with Micah over the years has been this gradual type thing.
Everything's slowed down, right? Everything's kind of like,
it's all in slow motion.
Yeah.
And just trying to be patient, trying not to push him too hard. But the teachers at the same time, they don't want to push him at all. They don't want to stress him out at all. But I just want them to push him a little bit and try to introduce him to new things. But they're just not doing that. And as far, over the years, his speech has certainly gotten better, and there's a lot of things he couldn't do physically, and over the years he's getting better and stronger physically. But as far as any major things over the years that just pop out, they're really nothing. It's just all very gradual.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Kind of taking those little wins when they happen, like, yes.
Yeah, there are little, Oh, here's a good example. Today we were at the river. Micah is very, very good at skipping stones. He's got his own little style. He throws from the hip. It's like this. He's right-handed, but he throws left-handed.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
It's very interesting.
So
So
he's okay. So he's right-handed, but he's doing it left-handed.
exactly. So
Ah, okay.
he's got this really interesting way of throwing, and when he finds that perfect stone, it will literally skip 20 to 30 times, and people are
That's
like,
amazing.
oh, that's so. There were a bunch of people around the river, and they all stopped what they were doing, and they're watching Micah skip these stones and the way he throws the stone, and they're just amazed by it.
And
And
he loves doing it as well, doesn't he?
yeah, and
He's
he's
just like
calling people over and trying to get them to join in,
it's
and
like
he'll
help me
see.
find some stones.
Um, so we know that he loves that. He loves stones and skipping stones, collecting stones.
Mm.
So we entered him in a stone skipping contest. And last year, he's because he's 13, he's in the adult group. And these adults are, they can skip 40 times and stuff like that.
Okay, yeah.
But he was actually out of, I think, 60 plus 80 people, adults. He was in the top 10.
That's awesome, hey.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So he finally missed out. It started getting windy and just picked a bad stone. But after, the winner of the contest came up to Micah and was asking him about his technique. Please show me how you throw the stone. So we're just sitting there like, watching Micah and this guy throw stones together. It was pretty cool.
That's awesome, hey.
Yeah.
That's what a great moment, hey. Like, so, just that seeing him kind of inclusive in that, like, just come and say, hey, like, how do you do this? Like, what's going on? Just not treating me any different from anyone else, right? Just being like, hey, this is like, how do you do this? How you doing, man? Like, and those are such magic moments, and when they happen, they don't happen a lot. Hey, they unfortunately don't happen enough. Like, I look at my younger son, and they like Josh. It happens every day. He's just talking to everyone every day, right? He's just like, but having Jamie talk to other people every day is like, that's very different. Like, it's just that shit just doesn't happen. It happens like, in very kind of random and very far apart situations. So that's awesome. Obviously, so he loves doing that. What else does he love? So he loves skipping stones across the water. What else does he love?
He loves games. Nintendo Switch. He has completed Mario games. He's a smart kid. He's literally completed these games, and I can't play the games that well, but he's able to just quickly move through it, and he's a very visual kid, and he still remembers things that we taught him with picture cards when he was 3-4 years old.
Wow.
So he is definitely a visual learner. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So you did that when he was what? So just going back to that. So how old was he? You had like picture cards, like flashcards, essentially. Yeah.
There was a program out of Tokyo that was supposed to be for kids with special needs. It was a box, and there were little like which picture is an elephant, and just things to work on to help them develop.
Mm-hmm.
And with that set came picture cards, and we decided to write Japanese and English on it. So we were teaching him Japanese and English at the same time using picture cards. So we were working with him, daily after school for 30 minutes or something. And all of the things that we did back then with those picture cards, he still remembers to this day.
Wow. That's great.
Unfortunately,
you did a good job, man. That's like,
yeah.
You gotta pat yourselves on the back for those things, because it's just, he like say he remembers it, he knows it, so that's awesome. That's fantastic. So What was it, any other things that he's really into? Like, is he, you said video games, what, music, or is he not so into music? Or
When I listen to some tunes, especially if it has a good beat, he'll start bobbing along to it, beating on me to the tune. So he likes some of the really upbeat music that I listen to.
That's great. So is this like, are you in the car or is it home? When you're at, what's the situation? Any
If we're riding in the car and he sits directly behind me, and I'm sitting there bobbing to the music, and then all of a sudden I start feeling his hand pounding on my back to the music. So I'm like, that's a tune, right, Micah? So I'm sitting there bobbing our head together and stuff like that.
Fantastic. That's great. Yeah, actually, he's big time into music. He loves actually listening to the same song over and over and over. Like, just like, he will literally, it would drive me absolutely bananas. Like, but he will just quite happily, if it goes to the next song, like on my Spotify, it will go to the next song. He'll start kind of tapping the stereo and be like, more, like, like, one more time. And he's like, one more time, please. I'll go back. And I seriously, like, I mean, I was like, okay, how often? I think it was once I was like, okay, how many times can I play the same song? And I was waiting for two things to happen. Me just being like, okay, I'm over this, we're going to change song. Or for him to be like, okay, let's change song. And it was me that I was the first to give up. I was like, I think it was like 10 times. I was just like, no, I can't handle this song anymore. It's a great song, but I'm just like, I've got to move on to the next one. And he would skip along to try and skip along and keep trying to find another song that he would find acceptable. Otherwise, he would throw a hissy fit, because he would sit next to me in the front car. He sits next to me, right? And he would just go ape shit. Like, if he wasn't getting like a song that he would like. And it's actually sometimes it's been a bit dangerous, actually, because he just get, like, if it's just might be just me in the car with him in the van or whatever, and he's just like, he gets so annoyed. So I'm like, right, we just turn the music off, so it's, just sometimes it's good and sometimes it's not so good, and sometimes it's fucking dangerous too.
Something you might look into. We introduced to Micah is a thing called Osmo, and it's a coding. It's a very simple coding program, and they use little blocks. You have an iPad, and there's this little piece that fits on the camera,
right?
And the blocks that you put with the directions or jumping or whatever, that camera will see that, and it reflects the same thing on the screen. So you're having a character move through these mazes and do different things, and it builds up. It's a building process, getting harder and harder. But Micah loves that. He absolutely loves playing with the computer, and we were hoping that we could move him in the direction of perhaps coding or something like that.
Yeah.
So he likes that too. You might look into that for your kids. There's different types of Osmo programs. There's a drawing type, there's a math type, and there's a coding type. It's really good. Yeah, you should check that out.
I have a look at that. He's kind of funny at the moment. Like, he's not so into kind of like, I say, screens like games or iPads. He'll watch music videos. He'll absolutely just like, but he's not interested in he's at the moment anyway. He's not interested in any other things really. In that sense. So. Yeah, it's interesting, but hey, I'm gonna have a look at it, man, because geez, man, you just don't know. Like, you really don't know. Like last week, actually, this week, earlier on the week, as you know, Douglas, we went to the movies, right? My last episode, went to the movies.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna just kind of steal your podcast, your guest moment here, mate. Sorry, but you've just reminded me, because people might be wondering what happened. And he made it through the whole movie. And I was actually very surprised, for starters. And at the end of it, we actually did. He told me halfway through. He was like, he says poo. Basically, Jamie says poo. He's like poo like this, and it doesn't mean he actually wants to go to the poo, go for a poo. He actually just means he wants to go to the toilet. So it's easier to say poo than say toilet for him. So, so I was like, okay, here we go. So we're probably about maybe 45 minutes in. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And we walked down, walked out, and then we came back. And my wife actually saw us go, and she thought, oh man, they've gone. Like, they're not coming back. But she saw us come back, and she's like, oh, fantastic. Like, and then right towards the very end of the movie, he did it again. But what it kind of did for me is that I was so proud of him to do it, because he struggled in that movie. He struggled. He was the noise. There was obviously big noises. It was like, but he managed to kind of regulate himself and kind of get through those bits. And it was just magical. And I felt really emotional, really proud of him. But I also felt really proud of myself that I had mindset myself to allow, like, just not get kind of wound up about it, and try not to be as calm as I could. And so I allowed myself to kind of, and I had to keep telling myself this, actually, the whole day leading up to it. In it, I was just like, just be calm, because I really feel that he picks up on my my senses. I feel like his the 21 chromosome that he has, the extra one that he has, like, it makes him super sensitive to my emotions. It's like, if I'm feeling like, really just like pissed off inside or something, is he picks up on that, like, just,
Micah
before
too.
I've even, like, within like 5 minutes of him.
Micah too. He picks up on my aggravation or whichever. He'll actually kind of retreat
Right.
within himself, and Cosme has to really, she scolds me quite a bit about that, just to, be careful and try not to raise my voice or things like that. So I've been really trying to be more careful about that. So yeah,
it's hard, man. How do you look after yourself, Douglas? Like, how do you, like, as an, because mental health is like, growing up, like, mental health wasn't talked about when I was growing up. This is, just wasn't. It was a bad word that, was never really mentioned. And when it did, people kind of frowned and said, oh, but now it's something that is still got a stigma with it, which is really stupid. But it is very real, and even more so for guys like us who battle with the challenges we have. So how do you make it through the day? How do you find ways of getting making sure that you are in a good headspace?
I try to talk about things. My wife and I have been pretty good over the years about talking about things that are just bothering us. When we don't talk about things is when things get really bad. I talk before my dad died last year. I would, call him up and try to get his advice on things. And I talk to my mother probably 3-4 times a week, trying to get her advice on things. Before I came to Japan, I was really into martial arts, and I worked out, and over the years that's just slowly disappeared, and I've started drinking more, and martial arts kind of disappeared. So to get all of my stress out by going and working out for a bit. But over the years, I started turning to the bottle. Then I gained a bunch of weight, and my health went bad. And so I try to find. I stopped drinking, except for socially. If I'm at a party with my buddies, I'll certainly get drunk. But I used to drink nightly for the longest time just to get rid of stress, and I've cut all that out.
Oh, that's good. That's a good step to make, mate. I congratulate you on that, because I don't. I'm not. I'm still. I have a daily or every other day I have an alcoholic drink, and but I think we just have to, again, it's just trying to be better, right? Be better to ourselves, trying to find out why we're doing it, right?
I do try to, I have multiple hobbies that I besides the martial arts, I have a Harley Davidson that I love riding, and just getting out on the Harley. And you have a sports car, so you know what this is like. Just getting out, driving fast, and just enjoying the roads. That's relaxing. And I love to cook. I'll get in the kitchen and make some food, or put together a party for some friends. And love cooking, working outside. I used to go fishing every day, but that kind of disappeared. I made a promise to myself that I'd take my workout bench, my weight bench, out of storage and dust it off, and get back to training. So,
hey, maybe Micah might be even down with that, mate. You can get Micah
I thought about
pumping some iron, man. He might surprise you.
Put some simple weights on the bench, and support them, and see what he might love getting out there and doing it with me.
Yeah.
We tried to join a karate class together.
Oh, cool.
But with COVID, it's hard to do that.
Yeah. So, that's actually made things a bit more difficult, isn't it? It's difficult for everyone in different ways, right?
Even my wife joined in on that. She was loving it. She started beating me up.
Me up at home. I'm just practicing, honey. Don't worry.
I sleep in the bed, and I feel elbowed. Next.
Boom! There it is. That's your alarm in the morning to get up. Get out. So it's what so because for me again I'm always trying to find. I have things that I try and ground myself. And actually doing this podcast, I'm not going to lie, this podcast is a massive way for me to talk about things in a safe environment, and just unpack things sometimes. Be like, man, that's just, was that, do I really need to be thinking like that, or can I try something new? And listening to podcasts as well.
This has also helped me. To be honest, I tried over the years to talk with friends, and they just, they never seemed to I felt like they just couldn't understand my position. I had a friend who just passed away. He has a daughter with autism, daughter with dyslexia, but he also has 2 other daughters that are doing very well. But he unfortunately passed away. But I would try to talk with him, but I still felt like he couldn't understand my situation, because he had 2 other daughters, and he can see their dreams succeed. And the dreams that I have for my son, I feel like I'm never going to be able to see that. So
Mm.
anyway, outside of that, but my wife told me about you and your wife and the struggles that y'all went through with your son and trying to get him into a regular school. And she was telling me I need to contact you, and I was like, nah, fuck that. I'm not gonna do that.
Mm.
I'm just
Yeah.
gonna deal with it myself. And then I finally contacted you and we started messaging. And as soon as I talked to you, I felt this load just come off of me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And answering these questions that you sent me and writing down all that stuff, it really I really looked at myself and it's I'm trying to make changes now for the
Mm.
better. I want to be a better dad and do things more with Micah, and I want to stop saying I'm going to come around to it, come back to it. Is I want to stop saying that. I don't want to see his childhood go by and I didn't do anything. You know,
Mm.
I'm tired of it, and
Mm.
I want to stop that.
Yeah.
This whole thing has actually helped me also. So you're doing a good thing with this. Very, very good thing.
Well, I mean, I appreciate it. Thank you for that. It's like it's because I've been kind of thinking about doing it for about over a year, and I was like, I don't quite know kind of really how I want to do it, and just it was more, I had more questions than answers, and then I just very recently I was like, you know what, fuck this, like I'm just gonna goddamn do it, and I was talking with my therapist, my counselor about it, like about a month ago, and I said to her, like, just over a month ago, and I said, yeah, I'm going to start my own podcast. I'm going to talk about it, and this is what it's going to be about. It's going to be about guys, dads who have kids with special needs and disabilities, and talk about it, because we don't fucking talk about it. We don't, like, mums have definitely far more of a kind of an ability to just shoot the shit, right? They'll just talk about this. They'll talk about what's going on, but also they'll just talk about other stuff that's happening. And women are very good at doing this. Generally, not all of them, but generally they're pretty good. And guys, we are not. We are like a shit show on this. My personal opinion on this, and is that it's actually, for me, it was a lot of it actually was down to masculinity. I'll be really honest about this, and I don't see myself as one of these kind of, like, the image of masculinity, you think of a guy who's ripped and got all his shit together and looks like he's straight off the set of Baywatch or something, whatever. But there's actually so much more. For me, there was so much more to it. Like so much of my insecurities and all that kind of stuff was connected with my masculinity, and I kind of was just, I was very shy. I was just so kind of introverted, and that actually played out with me caring for Jamie, and I think that actually for me, masculinity had a, like, kind of pulling it to pieces. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, it's pulling it to pieces and understanding my own masculinity, how I kind of was like dealing with it. And I've definitely become a better person for kind of understanding that, and still learning, very much learning how that is.
I think there's absolutely nothing wrong about really looking at yourself in depth and trying to make changes. There's nothing wrong with that. I know my weaknesses and my flaws, and it is hard to change those things especially when they're just wired in.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah,
for guys, they're just really wired in, and it's hard to change those things. But there's nothing wrong with working on that about yourself and trying to make changes for the better. If you're seeing yourself causing negative reactions within your family, over and over again, you need to really step back and take a look at yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
and try to make those changes. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. So
No, and good things generally happen as well when we do that. And I, it's interesting because it was my sister put me onto it. Actually, she put me onto this a book from a guy. His name was Justin Baldoni, and she kind of, this is like over 2 years ago, and she said to me, "Hey, like, you might be interested in this book," and it was called Man Enough, basically. And I fucking love the book. It has shaped me how I am right now, because before reading that book and kind of I see myself I was very different, and it allowed me to realize so many things about how I was that were having a negative kind of impact around, well, just me kind of caring for because I wasn't looking after myself, for starters. That was basically like the main thing. It was like, okay, I need to look after me and put myself first, not as in like just be like stuff everyone else. Like, it was actually look after myself and then moving forward from there.
Without you, you're basically the foundation for your family. And without you being there and healthy, mentally and physically, the foundation's not there. Your family's going to fall apart.
Yeah, I mean, like, that is the thing, is because you've got to step up, haven't you? As a dad, you got to try and step up and as best to your ability and be the dad that you want to be, and of course we generally try and do that, right? But sometimes we mess up, we screw up, we fuck up, sometimes we're just oblivious to the shit that we actually cause, right? Because I was just so like, oh, like, really? Wow. Okay. So, at the end of the day, we just want to try and be better. Like, I just want to try and be better for those people around me. And I've really noticed that kind of understanding my masculinity. I'm not saying it's bad, like I say. I just understanding and kind of making sure that I'm very much more in tune with how I want to be, and all that. Okay, let's bring it right back to you. So, can you tell me something that made you laugh recently about with Micah? Something that yeah.
He's just he'll come up with these phrases every once in a while, and,
I think I know where this is going.
It's almost like a different language sometimes, and we have to like, huh? It's just that happens quite often where what did you say, or we have to figure out sometimes where he gets some of this stuff. For a while he was saying pneumon. I'm like, what the heck is pneumon? And there's a commercial,
right?
Pneumon, and it's a hair growth commercial. It's just, he'll just come up with some weird phrases that he sees and he finds amusing, and he'll just repeat that, and we have to figure out where did he pick that?
Where does he get that from? Like where, it was. I guess it kind of comes out in any situation. Like, you might be in the car and he'll just be like, boom, like, like, what? Like, it might be something from the TV, but he's in the car, I guess. Is that right?
Yeah. Or just sitting on the couch and
right,
start saying different phrases, and wow.
Right. Yeah.
Interesting. Oh, well, he might hear something from school, and he'll just start repeating those things, and we have to kind of we have to ask his teacher, have you been hearing Micah say this phrase, or do you know where he might have picked that up? So it's almost like a mystery.
Actually, Jamie had a funny one a couple of years ago. He would he went through this phase of saying aloha, just like all the time, like just randomly anywhere, be like aloha, aloha, like this, and it was just like, and people would think because like people would think I was Hawaiian. I was from Hawaii because like they'd be like, oh, like are you Hawaiian or something? I'm like, no, and it was like, well, we still don't know where it came from. We have no idea where it's come from because I don't walk around going aloha, like, but it was just, it went on. I'm not joking. It started randomly one day, and it went on for about 3 months. Him just daily saying this, like, aloha, like, oh my God. Anyway, but
your wife's name is Junko, right?
Yeah.
My son, when he heard your wife's name, he was repeating that. Junko, over
telling me this
again.
over and over.
We finally, to break him, he was doing this for months. So then we started saying, if you say Junko, then we're gonna, I don't know, take away a sticker. He has a sticker card where he's trying to get awards. We'll take away one of your stickers, just
right.
And he'll start to say again. We heard you say Junko, but we finally broke him.
Right, there we go.
Saying Junko all the time, but and every time he saw like an email or something, and it would remind him of Junko, he would just start saying it all over again. Yeah. That was months of Junko, man.
That's great.
Yeah.
And, actually, when I met him, because I met him first time at the kind of mid-December last year, and I actually really felt like I had met him before. There was something really unique about it. I don't know what it was. I felt like I had met him or in some form or whatever. Like, it was a very weird, like, I don't know, it was just so weird. I just felt like I'd met him in some past life or something. It was like, it was a very unusual and a great feeling as well, right? But so unusual to be like.
Micah he really does have a positive effect on people. He's just always he's really not in a bad mood, and unless he's coming home from something he enjoys, he might be in a bad mood from that. But outside of that, as soon as he wakes up, he's just a happy kid, and
that's awesome.
I think that reflects on people. I think just that positive, and he's almost pure in a way. It's just it makes me makes me look at myself. Need to work on myself.
Well, let's what would you say 4 words that sum up your life as Micah's dad?
Certainly challenging. Oh, that's difficult. I really can't sum it up in 4 words.
Challenging is pretty. That's I think everyone can relate to that, right?
Yeah. It's been challenging, but it also kind of, I'm fearing the future for him, and what I hope is not the inevitable. I don't want him to be in a home, so I kind of fear for his future. Hope. Of course, happiness and I can't imagine my life without him. I mean, even after all of the hard things we've been through, I wouldn't trade that for the world.
Mm.
It's been,
No.
it's taught me taught me about life. It's been a super challenge, and the heartbreaks that we've been through, but also the joy that he's brought us has been great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I can't really give you the words, but yeah.
No, it is hard, isn't it? It is hard, and to kind of pick out kind of four words for that. What what about?
What are your 4 words?
Oh, here we go. Thanks. I love this. Batting it straight back to me. I love it.
Yeah, it's hard to
Ah, man.
come up
It
with.
is. Okay. Um, 4 words that sum up my life. Chaotic.
Hmm.
Um, uh, Random. Because sometimes I still forget that that I'm in this world, and the poem, Welcome to Holland. Just yeah, I still forget that I'm actually in Holland and not in Italy,
Hmm.
on a regular basis. So I am still pretty random, unfortunately, with a lot of stuff. Um, uh, Beautiful,
Hmm.
because I think that what what I you know what I'm experiencing, what I get to experience with Jamie, there are moments where it's just so it's just so beautiful, and so like it makes me realize um, how he is. Like, we just humanity, and we sometimes we just need to simplify what is going on in our world, and he kind of allows me to enter that space um, more than what I would have
That brings up
otherwise.
a good point. I've been so focused on his future that I haven't been really taking time for the now
Mm,
and enjoying what's around me now. I've been so focused on just I'm thinking I can solve his future,
mm-hmm.
but can I? I can try, but I need to really take more time. And yes, I can still worry about his future, but I need to start taking more time to enjoy now.
Yeah, that's great. I am really happy to hear that, like, you've had that kind of that moment of like, okay, this is how it's a shift. Potentially it's a shift in kind of how you want to be and how you're going to move forward. And it's a really hard shift. And I I suppose I haven't thought too much about the future. Um, in a way, I haven't. I think maybe it's just too hard to go there, and I've just been like, because I don't know where I'm going to be. I don't know where I'm going to be in 2 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in 5 years. I don't know where I'm going to be in like 30 years. I really have just no idea. So I'm like, um, so I just, I don't know. Maybe I'm delusional, and but I don't think I am. But maybe I'm delusional. I just think everything's just going to be okay. There's a side of me that just thinks it'll work itself out. It'll it'll be okay. He will. There'll be people around him who will help him. When I'm not here, when I'm gone, or even when I am here. Because I used to have a really big fear, and I realized my biggest fear was dying, actually, because that was my fear, was that because he is Daddy's boy, is that I was being incredibly selfish, because I was like, how's he gonna feel when I'm gone? Because he's just Daddy's boy. And that was actually pretty much, it was quite a recent kind of one of my biggest fears. I think I've slowly kind of got through that, actually, and realized that actually I just can't control that shit. I just can't control that, because it's just way out of my hands. And anything that's out of my hands, if I can't do anything about it, then I'm just gonna, that's off my plate of concerns. But it's still, hey, it's still there. I'm not gonna say it's not there. Fourth word. Go back to my fourth word now. So I can pull it back into this.
Yeah.
Fourth word. What were my words? Challenging, beautiful. Did I? Oh my goodness, I've forgotten. Maybe I'll just leave it there with my words. I've spoken too many words anyway. So yeah, we have beautiful kids, and our boys, they challenge us, and they just, it's actually, I just saw the word relentless. There we go. It's relentless. But it's a relentless thing that we're dealing with, and I have to always remind myself to give myself space. And even I just remembered today, I was like, man, I haven't given myself any fucking space this, like, the past week. The last time I got myself space was actually when I was down here recording my other episode. And that was the last time I got myself my own space. And that's piss poor. It's really piss poor for me, because I need to do better than that on myself. And just extracting myself out from my life, from just the mechanics of my world. And you, like you, Ram, because you also are you are a business owner as well, right? So
it's a business that got killed by COVID. So I'm trying to. You actually encouraged me when you said you're opening up a new place. So that actually encouraged me. I was in my old shop for over 10 years, and it was always meant to be just a temporary place. And so I thought, right now we don't have a lot of students, and this would be an opportune time to actually pick up, find a new place, and start over.
Fantastic.
Fresh. Yeah. And so you encouraged me to do
great.
Yeah.
I'm really happy, because I think it's, good things happen when you just, you got to take the bull by the horns. There's risk with these things as well, right? Like,
yeah, business is always a risk, and you have to take risk to have a successful business.
Yep.
And it applies with our kids and family.
It does.
You gotta take risk and change things and change the bad things and make things better. So it doesn't just apply to our businesses; it applies to our family also. Get rid of the bad stuff and work on the good stuff.
Exactly right. Well, Douglas, mate, we've been going here for it's almost an hour and 40 minutes. That's a record. You've broken the record. And you've done really well, because I think that you've been really honest and open, and you've let us into your world, and the struggles that you have as a dad with a son that has special needs. It is challenging, and I just want to say to you, you're doing a great job, man. Like, it is, we never sign up for these things. We are put into this position, and we roll with the punches, and sometimes those punches are really hard, and other ones just, we just gloss off, and it's just like, yeah, I love those ones that just gonna gloss off. But you're doing great, and
same. I've heard lots of good things about you. So yeah, keep up the hard work.
Thanks, man. Yeah, thanks, man. Well, look after yourself, and be good to yourself, and give yourself permission. Don't feel guilty going to go blasting around on that Harley Davidson of yours around the hills, man, and make it count. Make it absolutely count, because it's got to be done, and you've got to just be. I keep repeating, be nice to yourself. Because that's what I repeat. I have to just keep telling myself this, because I just didn't for so many years. I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know. I had to learn how to be good to myself, and I'm still learning on that as well.
Yeah.
Righty ho. All right. So, thank you very much, Douglas. Again.
Anytime you want to chat more, just let me know. I'll be more than glad to take the time to meet up with you.
Fantastic.
And thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Absolutely welcome.